What's happening, everyone? My partner's Ian's keeping it real. What's happening, everyone? And welcome to El Chile Boxing Talk. I got the homies with me, George with Off the Ropes Boxing and MMA, Nopal Boxeanos, and a very special guest, our friend, Drew Evo from the Shoe Shine. Glad he's here, man. He's doing good, man, and his show's catching fire, bro. You know, we want to talk to him, see what he has to say, man, because I've been listening to his show and some other shows, and, Drew, like, what you have to say, man, it's getting attention, man, and some people are calling you the voice of reason. I mean, or some people are calling you controversial, man. So we're going to figure all that out. We have a loaded show, lots of topics, man. But let's start with a weekend recap. But first, I want to give a shout out to JC, who's first in the house always. Our brother, Sean Gringo Hicks from Long Live Boxing. Thanks for joining us, brother. Dave from the 408, the Shoe Shine is here, as well as Sonteo Media. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's get right into it, man. Quick little weekend recap. Vergil Ortiz Jr. wins against Michael McKinson. He stops him, right? And so now we have a chance to have a little bit more information. The layoff is over. We've had a chance to see him in the ring against different styles. I want to know what you guys think. Let's save the best for last. Drew Evo, we'll save him for last. George, what'd you think of Virgil's performance?
Yeah, yep. Welcome, Drew. Good morning, guys. Well, I was pleased with his performance. I've always been a fan of Vergil Ortiz. I've always been one to say that over at Golden Boy that he should be the guy that gets the recognition. And nothing against Ryan, but that's the way I felt. I just feel, he's not a good look. I mean, he's not a bad looking guy either. He's got good looks, you name it. And he showed obviously this past weekend that he's the goods. I mean, if you look at his last couple of performances, especially against Velasquez and McKinson, those guys were actually ranked in the top 10 in the welterweight. I think McKinson was ranked number 5 in the WBO. Velasquez was, I think, he was maybe 8 or 9 in the WBA. So to me, that just shows, where he's at as far as what his performance did this weekend. McKinson, he went in there. And anytime you fight a guy that has 2 knockouts, I mean that, you're going to go in there, you're not worried about getting hurt. So that's what happened. If it was a headbutt, punch, whatever, cut over the eye. He had a great performance, and he was in there to go out there and go for the knockout. But hats off to McKinson for being tough. He lasted as long as he could. But Vergil Ortiz, man, he's the goods. I was very impressed with his performance. Again, like I said, it was against somebody at least in the welterweight division in the top 10 ranked. So, I give him out of an A through F. I'll give him a solid B+.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much, George. The Boxing Relevance joined us. He thinks that Virgil's ready. Thanks, man, for being here. And he also says he's jumping ahead because we're going to have this conversation here in a second. We're going to find out if Vergil Ortiz, in our minds, is the best Mexican welterweight since De La Hoya. But he says Margarito was a plaster cheat with zero technique. Mikey was too small and underperformed at welter. Victor Ortiz had a weak chin, and I didn't consider him elite. Damn. Well, he's bringing it out early. Good, man, because you know what? I got a lot to say on that, too. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about Vergil Ortiz a little bit more as how he looks. Nopal, do you agree with George, or what are your thoughts on Virgil's performance over the weekend?
I really liked his performance. I give him the same grade. I think B+. You got to keep in mind that he's fighting these tricky fighters like El Maestro Herrera and this McKinson guy, who they're not known for power or anything like that, but they have awkward styles that have exposed other fighters. And Vergil is fighting these guys, so this is how anybody's going to look with guys that are known to just go in there and try to survive. These guys are tricky and they know what to do. So, and I think the guy he just fought was undefeated. So I thought he did really good. Looks wise, it doesn't look that good, but he won by knockout. And for me, that's good, considering there's not many fights out there for him that are actually available, because he's with Golden Boy, and I'm looking forward to his next fight.
All right, Drew Evo, what do you think about all this, man? Are you on board? What do you think?
I thought he did okay. A Like, tell you the truth, it went the way I thought it was going to go. I said it last week that he was going to have a hard time with McKinston's style a little bit, with his foot movement and his boxing and everything. And he did. So, I think it was okay. He got the knock. He got the TKO. But this really, there's still questions about him I have. Is he ready for Bud Crawford? Does he beat a Bud Crawford? Does he beat an Orr Spence? No, he does not beat them right now. Because, tell you the truth, that seek and destroy style that he has is only going to get you so far in boxing. When you fight someone that has power and good foot movement and is a good boxer, that's where he's going to have problems with. So I give him a B-, C+ borderline. McKinston did show some problems with the movement and everything, but he's going to have to try to adapt with being more defensively sound and to be more of a patient instead of that seek and destroy that he's normally known for.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a little more patience. I think he should have cut the ring off a little bit better. Like you said, Drew, he was seeking, destroying. And I think only because against McKinson, he's undefeated, 2 knockouts. And, of course, the style was what gave him issues. And, yeah, seek and destroy definitely needs to change that a little bit. I agree with that.
So Teo said that McKinson impressed him, and he wants to know if Golden Boy matches him up against Roca or Blair the Flair Cobbs. Like, hey, I'd be okay with seeing him again. He came in there to win. I give him a lot of respect for that. El Chido A-Rod is in the house. He says, saludos, raza. John Blaze is here. Thank you so much for joining us. JC's back in the house, man. It's good to see you. And as far as Sonteo's assessment, he says he gives him a B- for not listening to his corner earlier in the fight. He needs to trust his pops' voice. But the early cut threw off the corner work dynamics. And JC says, well, he still got the job done. And so, Drew, you said something that was interesting. You said that he's not ready for a Crawford or a Spence. Do you think that he beats everybody else at the welterweight division?
When it comes to, let's say, Boots Ennis, I think Boots slightly has still an edge over him because you could say he didn't fight nobody, but if you compare resumes, they kind of both fight the same opposition because Marty Hooker was a former 140-pound champion, and Lipinets was a former 140-pound champion. Like really, if you compare resumes, they're the like.
What do you, Drew? What do you think about that guy from England? He's like a Eddie Hearn's fighter.
Well, Conor Ben?
Yeah. What do you think about that fight?
You know what? I think Vergil Ortiz beats Conor Ben.
That would be a good fight.
I think Boots beats Conor Ben. I think Conor Ben, the way that they're promoting him, and now they put him in a fight with a catchweight fighter, 157 pounds with Chris Eubanks. It's tell you the truth, it's not a damaging blow if he loses that fight to Chris Eubanks. Chris Eubanks has all the pressure on him because if he loses to Conor Ben, he loses to a welterweight that came up 2 weight classes at a catchweight fight with him, and he's not credible anymore. That's what I think about him fight. Conor Ben's in a good situation with his next fight, but I think he loses to Vergil Ortiz and Boots. I don't think, if you look at it, I told people he's going to have more losses than his dad did, Nigel Ben. And he has 5 losses, Nigel Ben. So he's probably going to have at least 6 or 7 by the time his career is over if he fights that long. But it's when I compare it with Boots and Virgil, it's a 55-45 fight favoring Boots. Because he has power, he has movement. Virgil's going to have problems with that. Until he faces a guy with power and good boxing movement and everything, the verdict is still out. And people can say, come on, man, he's only 24 years old. He's not listening to his coaches. That's a big problem right there. And if you don't see that's a big problem, then this kid's is gonna pay for it down the line with not listening to his coaches. So that's a main issue.
Drew, can we also consider the fact that who his coaches are. Maybe they're not that experienced, right?
Like he's
like
not listening to
ain't-
his dad. He's not.
His dad ain't the. They're known to have a real coach. They had trainer. They had what's his name, Garcia.
But
And
they have Robles now as the second.
Oh yeah, Manuel Robles.
but he's the second, right? So the dad's in charge. I don't think that. I think it should be the other way around. They should have a different trainer, and then the dad the second, and whatever. He should just let Manny Robles take over, maybe. You know.
Like I look at it like this: if you're not, the one thing they're in your corner for is to give you instruction and advice how to attack every round and everything. Him being as young as he is needs to listen to everything that they're telling him, process it, and adapt and do what's being told and everything. That the way that he's going to lose a fight basically because he did not listen to his coaches.
Well, Drew, thank you so much. And Drew's good friend Santiago Media respectfully disagrees with Drew. He says that where are the hookers and Herreras on Boots' resume? MIA. I disagree. George, what do you think about this? And where do you think that Virgil stands now in the welterweight division?
I mean, I've been pretty convinced with him for like the last two, 3 years maybe. And to Santiago's point, Maurice, like Drew just mentioned, you know, he's the he was a former 140 champion, just like Limpinets was a 140 champion, fighting at 147 on Boots' resume. You have Hooker fighting on Ortiz's resume, as well as Maurice, as well as Herrera. But if we look at the last two fights for Boots and Ortiz had Kavaliauskas and he had McKinnison. You look at Boots' last opponents, he had Clayton and he had Delorme. Delorme wasn't, I don't think even was a 147 I don't think he was even a champion even at 140. And a lot of people were not giving Delorme any kind of chance because coming up to 147. It's just I get it. Sometimes these guys don't get the fights they want because they're high risk, low reward type of fights, but you know, you got to keep busy. And so I respect that. But as far as like the last couple fights, like I said on the resumes, Boots last two were Delorme, Clayton. Neither one of those guys are ranked in one at the 147 out of the 4 sanctionings. Ortiz, McKinnison, Kavaliauskas. Kavaliauskas gave Terrence Bud Crawford a little bit of issues, even an unofficial knockdown. Yes, he hurt Ortiz, but Ortiz bit down. He got him out of there. I think which was a really, really good win for Ortiz, because even Bud was saying, look, go beat the guys that I beat. And he went and beat Kavaliauskas on the next fight. As far as Ortiz being next, I mean, how much more ready can you be? He's already ranked anywhere between 1 and 5 and you know, at the 147 division. I mean, against, I guess, him and Boots, I don't think that is a fight to happen next. I mean, even though, you know, us boxing people want to see all the great fights happen as soon as possible, but I think that is a fight to happen in the future, I think. Because Boots, Boots is definitely the goods. He passes the eye test, like I always said. Ortiz, I mean, 24 fights, 24 years old, 19 fights, 19 knockouts. I think he's the only guy right now with 100% knockout ratio. And then Bud is, I think, like the next one. So Ortiz, I think he's ready, man. I guess as far as next in the 147 division, you know, there's names out there that are possibles for him. I mean, let's see. Conor Benn would be a good one, right? But Conor Benn is busy. Keith Thurman doesn't really have anybody in mind. I mean, if you know, it could be a fantasy fight that we would love to see get made. Thurman is still in there ranked, but I mean, we'll see what's next exactly for Ortiz. I think he's the goods, man. I think he's proved it. And like Santiago said in the comments, or it might have been JC, some of the things that Ortiz does, they're pretty fixable. They're pretty fixable that you can fix. I think the reason for the seek and destroy against McKinnison, because he didn't feel any kind of threat. I'm sure he felt his best shots early and didn't come out and respected McKinnison. So I get it. He seek destroyed. He took some of the shots that he wasn't supposed to take, and just trying to make an exciting fight, man. Ortiz, great body puncher, great jab. But I think some of those little things that he could work on can be either perfected or ironed out as best as he could. But he's ready. I'm ready to see him get in there.
Sonteo, actually, Shoeshine Boxing says Sonteo to Sonteo Lipinets was a world champ at 140, like Hooker. No, all right, good point. And JC says, just like Georgie here, how much more ready can you be? So maybe I should phrase this a little differently. Do you think he beats Crawford or Spence, George?
Okay, that's the other shit. That's tough, man. I mean, 24 years old. I mean, right now, I would say. I think those fights are 54-45, and I'm only leaning with Bud and Spence only because they are, they're more, obviously their careers are more defined, more experienced. They've been there, done that. So I obviously would favor these guys, but these would be very good close fights. And I think Spence and Bud actually would respect Ortiz if this fight is to be made. I don't think they would go out there and try to destroy him, and they would respect him. I'm sure all fighters respect each other, and I think these guys would respect Ortiz. But I'm gonna say no.
Thank you. Finally, a hard answer from George. Thank you so much. No, Paul, what do you think, brother?
As far as what again?
Does he beat Crawford and Spence now? And also, does he beat everybody else in the division besides those two?
I think he beats everybody else. I agree with Drew and with George. I mean, I think it's a 50-50 with Boots. And I'm going to say that that's probably what Drew was trying to say. It's a 50-50 because the closest thing to that is 55-45. So in reality, we already know Drew's just going with the dude he likes. Gave him that extra 5%. Nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I do the same shit, but in this case, it's probably a 50-50. And as far as the Spence fight, I think that would be a good fight. I still favor Spence. As far as Crawford fight, I would not. When it comes to Crawford, I would never. I don't see any welterweight that could beat him. So, it would be competitive, but I don't know what would happen. I'm pretty sure, I just think Crawford would be a heavy favorite on that fight. But you know what I mean? In reality, I don't even think that these fights are possibly, due to the politics and all that, they can't be made. So in the meantime, they can all act like they want to fight each other. So, that's that for me.
Like, put a point out there. I was in a couple of chats the other night, and they were talking about Ortiz and everything. So I went in, I said what I said on here in the chat. And then, you got people going around saying, you got fanboys saying Virgil's vulnerable and everything. How can you say fanboys when fanboys defend the fighters?
That's what I was thinking right now. I'm like, how does that work?
Critique other fighters they don't care about and everything. Like, if you look at it, like and I said the same thing. How can you say that fanboys are saying that? The fanboys defend their fighters and everything. You might want to go back to the Webster's dictionary and look up the definition of fanboy.
Yeah,
or Google that shit.
I never understood, Drew, a dick rider trying to call another guy a dick rider. Like, I just never understood that.
Man.
And I'm not saying that you're a dick rider.
They're sure not a dick rider. They ride my dick.
It's called projecting. I want to thank Chauncey Pearls for coming over and joining us. He says he would love to see Stanionis versus Virgil. That would be fun. Stanionis is the dark horse in the division and a tough fight for anybody in the welterweight division, including Virgil. And then El Chido Boxing here says that Virgil needs to work on defense for Bud and Spence. They have accurate punches. And, I pretty much agree with what most of you all have to say. I think that he beats everybody in the welterweight division. With Boots, I think it is kind of a toss-up fight as far as their particular resumes. Like, I wouldn't consider either of their resumes very strong, and it might be simply because of the division that they're in and where they're campaigning and who's willing to face them, right? So it's not necessarily always their fault, but they're getting older, you know what I mean? And so I think that could be a 50-50 fight. Who would I favor? I'd probably favor Virgil, but I wouldn't put any money on it, that's for sure. I would just watch it and enjoy. As far as Virgil versus Crawford, people are coming out early and saying that, Crawford better get it done now because he's turning 35, and he is. But, Virgil could bring it, and Virgil could beat Crawford. I'm not so sure about that. I probably would favor Crawford right now. I think that Crawford's, I mean, he's a complete fighter in my opinion. On top of that too, I mean, if we're treating him like a number 1, number 2 pound for pound fighter, how can you have somebody who's in that same division who's not really ranked, top 10 pound for pound go in there and just handle him? Like, I think if anything, he would be the underdog for a lot of reasons. I think that Vergil Ortiz is used to going at his own pace. I don't think he's ever been backed up, not properly. I don't think he's ever had anybody kind of switch stances on him. I don't think he's ever had to properly chase anybody down. Does Crawford still have the feet that he had at 140? Like, I want to know that. If he does, then Virgil might have trouble finding him. I was hearing that Virgil was cutting off the ring against McKinson. I didn't see him cutting off the ring. I saw him working him to the body, wearing him down, and then walking him down. But he was not cutting off the ring, in my opinion. I felt like, it's not necessarily his job, but I mean, if he's in there with the real mover, like I think that Vergil Ortiz could have some trouble catching somebody like that. And as far as Spence, I think that Ortiz, respectfully, and I'm a big Ortiz fan. I've been on the Ortiz train since jump, still on the Ortiz train, but I think that he loses to Spence right now for as long as they're both in the welterweight division, unless some changes are made. You know what I mean? And here's something else I want to ask you guys, since we're on the subject about, Doink is here and he's asking us, well, he wants to know whether Ortiz is Mexican or American. He might be just a troll, but I mean,
he's Mexican-American.
Well, the guys I'm about to list, even Margarito, he was actually born in California, right?
Yeah.
Even though he don't speak English. But we're going to entertain this little subject. We want to know, is Vergil Ortiz the best Mexican welterweight we've seen since De La Hoya? George, what do you think, bro?
I'm not going to say it's too soon, but just not yet. I mean, maybe if we look at their ages, I wish I would have done a little more research. I wish I would have looked a little bit more sooner, a little into their careers, where they were at 24. Like Mikey, I think was originally 130, 135. So, I mean, he's kind of out of the question as far as the welterweight. He didn't go to welterweight until later on, and that's when he fought Spence. But I would say over like the last 10, 15 years, it's pretty damn close, man. It's pretty damn close. Margarito was one of the most feared guys. He had Mayweather stuttering in a YouTube video saying, "Hey, when am I going to get the fight next?" He had Mayweather stuttering. Victor Ortiz, I mean, I've always thought this. I felt like he was kind of a bust, man. He just, from Mayweather, some of the other fights where he just came up short. He could have been something great, but I think a lot of critiques that he had was he kind of missed like that. He didn't have that switch of turning on that toughness or digging down deep. I think it was Maidana. He's ended up quitting against Maidana. So I think that was a lot of criticism that he got. But for right now, I mean, he's on that road right now to say that he can be the next 147 Mexican pound, next 147 Mexican, a Mexican American or even Mexican fighter. And I would say, yeah, give him a couple more years.
I hear that. Puro Sur is in the house. He says salute to the panel and the chat. Drew, what do you think, man? You're of an age like us, and you saw all these guys coming up. Would you say that Virgil is the best welterweight, a Mexican-American welterweight we've seen since De La Hoya?
You forgot to put one name up there.
Don't tell me about dangerous Jesse Vargas. I don't want to hear
Robert the Ghost Guerrero.
Oh,
shit.
Good call. Good call, my friend.
And I think at this time, when Robert is at his prime and at his best, I don't think Virgil is better than Robert Guerrero at his best, in my opinion. But like if you look at Victor Ortiz, this guy shamed you guys. Seriously, he's not a real Mexican fighter. He's a pussy. Like he quit multiple fucking times. And everything on a fucking stool. Like you can see guys fighting with fucking broken jaws when a guy that was at 135 came up and broke his fucking jaw. He fucking quit on the stool and everything, man. That's when you knew his career was fucking over. But like Mikey Garcia, he was never a good legitimate 147 pounder. That power didn't come up with him. He lost a step or two. And everything. When he lost the fucking Spence, he was downhill. Antonio Margarito, yeah, he got caught with the fucking with that cement fucking tape, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But like I think if any, I think right now, like he's probably better than these three, but he's not. I think Robert Guerrero at his best, and he had his best time. I don't think he's better than, because Robert Guerrero had a lot of upside back then, and I thought he was gonna go like places, like he was gonna be like at least a unified champion.
Well, I mean, he did have a good career, multiple weight division champion. And let's give Margarito some credit, whether or not he cheated. I mean, he's a multiple-time welterweight champion. Okay, let's not forget that. Before I go to Nopal, George, do you have anything that you want to say about Robert Guerrero as far as considering him on this list?
Man, I was just looking up some of his stuff right now. Yeah, I do remember Robert Guerrero. I mean, he even got, his chance at Floyd. He had a good fight against Danny Garcia. Of course, at the end of your career, like it doesn't really, you don't want to be remembered for your last end of your career, trying to get that last run again, trying to get those bouts. But I mean, I'm just gonna name some of the names really quick. He fought here Jose Casamayor, Vicente Escobedo, Katsides, Sulchek, Aiden. And at that time, Aiden was undefeated. He beat Andre Berto. But yeah, man, Robert Guerrero's career was a good career. I'm glad Drew brought that up. I totally forgot about that, because I was even thinking about like the names. I'm like, damn, there's got to be somebody else that was a Mexican American, somebody good as a Mexican American. I don't know the exact ages that Robert Guerrero was at the times when he fought these guys. He might have been a little bit more into like, more of his prime. Maybe like past 26, 27 years old. But I mean, for 24 years old, I think Vergil Ortiz is doing great. But I would definitely put Robert Guerrero's career just above Vergil Ortiz right now, because Vergil Ortiz still has a lot of time left on his career.
The Shoe Shine says, Gilroy is in the house, the ghost. You know what? I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have forgotten him. I've seen the guy fight live like 4 times. Only once to go see him directly, but I saw him on undercards, you know what I mean? And then by chance, I've seen him multiple times, and I'm from I went to San Jose State, spent a lot of time over there near Gilroy. So I don't know what it was. I just didn't really think of him, although, he wasn't at 147 forever. Neither was Victor Ortiz. Neither was Mikey Garcia. Right. And then how long has Virgil been at welterweight? Not the longest, right? He was 140 pounder. It's like last 3-4 fights, something like that. Right. He was 140 pounder before that, if I'm remembering correctly. But dude, I'll tell you what, I had a good time going back and watching some of these fights with Margarito, with Ortiz, Mikey Garcia. I watched a little bit. There's really not much there for him at welterweight. He was kind of, I don't know who thinks he would be anywhere close to the best Mexican welterweight we've had in a while. He was kind of embarrassing, right? But if we're talking about like, the other Mexican welterweights that we've seen recently, man, I had a good time watching Margarito against Cintron, against Paul Williams. I watched a little bit of the Clottey fight. I'll say this, man, Margarito, excellent poise, really calm in there, throws combinations. He kind of had probably the worst footwork out of all of them, maybe, but he always had his feet underneath him and one hell of a chin. Also, he could throw combinations, right? He can also fight on the inside, which I think is becoming more and more of a lost art. Like the more I think about it, the more I watch old fights, I'm like, people don't fight on the inside anymore, So I thought Margarito was able to bring it. But that's about also higher volume. On average, there's not much information on Ortiz's punch stats. I could only find like 2 of his fights, but on average, he throws lower volume than Margarito. I would say that Victor Ortiz, real fluid fighter. Probably the best guy on his feet. Also very physically strong. Was good at tying up, good at fighting on the inside, really good at pushing his opponents back and using his size and his strength. I think Vergil Ortiz has a strength problem. He was kind of flailing around in certain fights recently. He can get pushed back. He doesn't have his feet underneath him the way Margarito does. People want to forgive like the way he takes shots. I personally don't like it, and I still don't like it. One of the things that I've noticed is like, he gets caught off balance a lot, and people want to act like it doesn't happen, but I mean, I went and watched the Mean Machine fight. No, man, like I do have a concern with that, and the way he responds is like, this, come on, bring it. And, I like it as a fight fan, but as far as like, his ability to survive, I mean, he doesn't even tie up very well. There's a lot of things he doesn't do well that these other fighters do well. What does Vergil Ortiz do better than everybody else here? I'll tell you, I think that he's got a viciousness and a mindset to him, a tenacity, probably the best body puncher, probably the best lead left hand, really killer jabs, hooks, uppercuts. But if you ask me, I think Margarito and Victor Ortiz were better combination punchers. Ortiz doesn't really do like combinations too much. And that's pretty much my assessment. I had a good time kind of going around and looking at all of them. I'd say that like Ortiz's skill set is somewhere in the middle. Like I'd say he's probably got the most potential right now, but it's like that when we're kind of watching these people in real time. Like before we knew about Margarito, like when he beat Cotto, we thought he was like the greatest thing, right? Ortiz, he had a buzz. Like people want to act like he didn't have a buzz, but he had a buzz at the time. So did Guerrero. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things too. Like once you lose, then the buzz goes away. But right now, everybody's acting like we can't criticize Vergil Ortiz. Like, don't you dare, don't do it. And it's like, well, why not? I'm a big fan of his. I think that he does have some vulnerability. You know what I mean, Drew?
You know what? Anybody thinks you can't criticize Vergil Ortiz, they can go fuck themselves.
Well, I just don't know why. It's not like, Mexican boxing's like in the gutter and it's like, oh, he's the promised one. Like, man, I think he could do great. Like I said, I think he's already right up there. I think that if Crawford and Spence move up, I think Ortiz could rule the division. But, this idea that like, oh, well, he's young, it's okay that he's hard-headed because, he'll get it right. And I think that is a problem. Like if we can criticize people like Berlanga for that are around the same age, and I don't know why we can't say, hey, Ortiz needs to get it together. And we assume that he can. And like I said, I think he's got the mental strength, that a lot of these other boxers do not, except for Margarito. Like I said, Margarito, man, that guy, he's just calm in there. Oh, yeah. He would just throw and sit in the pocket. And the way he could take punches, like that's how like that's a chin. I think there's an open question on Vergil Ortiz's chin, to be honest. And I don't think he's really been hit to the body too much. I don't think he's been put on the back foot actively. I have a lot of questions. And like I said, maybe nobody can put those questions to Vergil Ortiz, but somebody might be out there. You know what I mean? I think this, quote unquote, like Drew says, seek and destroy style. I think it'll work for a while. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think Stanionis is like I put in the comment. I think he's kind of like the dark horse there of this division. He's tough. I think he's a good combination puncher. So he would give any one of these guys any kind of issue. I think Boots, as I actually mentioned, to be possibly fighting him or Keith. So that would be a good fight. Like if Boots was to go in there and to take care of business against Stanionis and do it pretty convincingly. I mean, I would give Boost the edge, but I agree with Chuchacano and Opal that right now, if these two guys were to fight at the end of this year, this would be a 50-50 fight. But Stanionis, I think, is that guy at 147 that could give anybody issues.
Here's the other thing, too. Great point. I just forgot to mention this. Like, Margarito and Victor Ortiz weren't bad at slipping shots on the inside. They could move. They would get hit, but I feel like Ortiz just gets hit. You know what I mean? He has the high guard, and like when they're in close, he starts getting tagged. Margarito, for a guy who could just eat punches like M&Ms, and he slipped a lot of shots from what I was seeing. Like I kind of forgot, how decent he was at the time, whether or not, he had loaded gloves. But I'm talking about just as far as like his inside, like head movement. Like Ortiz kind of moves in with that high guard, but it's not like, once he gets in, he can slip shots. On top of that too, like I feel like, and I was watching this, I feel like Margarito and Victor Ortiz are superior in feints. Vergil Ortiz, from what I saw, it doesn't seem like he feints all that much. You know what I mean? And fighters kind of know when he's about to throw. Hand speed wise, I'd say it's probably equal with Victor Ortiz. Good hand speed. Nopal, what do you think about this? I've been chiming in all this crap. You have anything to say, brother?
You know what? I kind of have, in my opinion, it's like you're right. You know what I mean? Boxers have their highs and lows, and right now, since he's undefeated, it's easy to just say, yeah, he's probably the best welterweight since De La Hoya. But I would probably put him equal to Margarito. Margarito, for me was really good. As far as the loaded gloves, I don't know. I don't think there's enough evidence to truly say that. And then Victor Ortiz, he had really good momentum at a point, but then as Drew said, yeah, he was kind of like he quit and stuff, and yeah, so yeah, he had his deficiencies, and I think he had a bit of a mental health issue. You know what I mean? We're starting to see that with fighters like Danny Garcia and Ryan Garcia, and even Teofimo. These guys are not perfect, and with Mikey and Guerrero, I don't really never considered them real welterweights. Guerrero was a very small welterweight. He would come in the ring on fight night weighing in about 145 versus his opponents who sometimes were like 150 or something like that, 160, you know. So I never really considered him a welterweight. But at his other weights, I think all those fights that George mentioned on Box Rec or whatever, I think most of them were below welterweight. So, you know, but he did pretty good at welterweight, but that was towards the end of his career, you know. I guess it was more comfortable for him to just come in at welterweight. But I think Ortiz is doing great, and I like to see a little more of him.
Me too. I remain a fan of his. I think he's got a high ceiling, you know, but I just see what I see, you know, and man, I just got to keep it real. I'm just being honest. That's all. You know what I mean? Like I see some room for improvement, you know, and right now it's high stakes for him, you know, and I don't really want him taking like a severe loss, and he should start working on things now. Like if we're also making the argument that, hey, well, he's ready now as he'll ever be, well, then he needs to be a complete fighter. And if you're asking me if Vergil Ortiz is a complete fighter, I mean, would anybody here say he's a complete fighter?
No. He's got to work on some things, you know.
No,
not even close.
But he's gonna beat like pound for pound #1 guy in the division. Who's, I mean, to me it just doesn't really add up. But I mean, I like the hype, you know. But like, I just think we should keep it in perspective a little bit. Okay, JC saying I need to stay on code. Maybe I do need to stay on code a little bit. You know what I mean? Vergil Ortiz has got a little bit of something for everybody. You know,
But the good thing is he has hella time to work on it, bro.
Yeah, he's got a hella potential too.
Look at how fucked up Canelo was at this point in his career. You know what I mean? He looked like dog shit around this time, you know.
Shoe shine
how
is
far
right.
Canelo went.
We're not gonna say stay on code. We're not gonna do that LDBC bullshit and everything. We're not the LDBC. We're not gonna say stay on code.
Come on, Drew. Bring the king of cap. Bring the king of cap.
Fuck the king of cap. It's the can man. Anybody can get it.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what. I just want to say I do really like Vergil Ortiz, and I hope he improves some of the aspects. I'm sure if I see it, other people see it too, you know, and I like what his dad has to say to him in the corner, and he does need to listen. We can't just take it for granted that he's going to smarten up when he faces somebody at the elite level, when he's under the bright lights, you know. And the other thing too is, like, I find it surprising that he's not a bigger draw in Texas. Like the numbers came out, you know, I kind of noticed the crowd, and I was talking to Diesel about it. I'm like, there's not that many people, and it's only like 6,000. I'm like, dude, you're a prime Mexican welterweight in Texas, and you only got like 6,000 people. Like that's a little surprising to me. I mean, he might need that big win to put him over the top, but I mean, it's clear that Spence is a bigger draw in Texas. Just in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Real quick, Robert Garcia never fought at 140. He went from 135 to 147. So he went from Caceres was his last 135 fight.
And then Floyd was his first fight, huh? He went straight.
No,
to
he went
to
so check Aiden. I remember that fight. He was undefeated, and then Andre Berto. He never is. That was probably like his third fight at welterweight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just checked it.
Okay.
Damn, people are saying I've turned.
He was really good, man.
Look at this. It's like for some reason, like Virgil's like this guy. Like we can't. It's bizarre to me. Like I've never seen it with any Mexican fighter. Like we can. I've criticized Canelo, and I could tell you what his deficiencies are. Oscar Valdez, Virgil. I mean, I could go on the list, but Vergil Ortiz is like this whole like, oh, don't do it. Don't you talk about him. Like, man, like I'm trying to keep it real.
It was like that with Jose Ramirez too, huh? Like
Ramirez, you know, you're right about that. Like, and here's my thing. Like, people were acting like he was the hottest thing since sliced bread. He's taken a loss, and now, like, you know, his fan base is completely gone. You know what I mean? It just happens like that. I mean, look at Teofimo. We're gonna get into it right now. Actually, look at Teofimo Lopez. People thought he was the shit after he beat Loma clean, right, Drew? But man, you know, now everybody's not even sure about him. People were saying he'd go and just clean up 140. Then he lost to Cambosis, and now it's a different story. So I want to get into this, man. Let's talk about. Sorry, I mean, we go on for a while talking about that, but we got to move on, man. We already spent 40 minutes talking about this, dude.
Chicano, stay on code, bro. Stay on code.
All right, from now on, I'm
stay on code, man. We don't need these chats going off. And
you're right. You're right. Okay, so
I'm the one to stay on code.
He's Honduran, you know what I mean? So it's okay. You know, it's okay. Like I don't have to stay on code so much for him. You know what I mean? So he's coming up to 140 this weekend. And I'm excited for this fight. And he's getting ready to roll. He's saying a lot of things. And he's fighting Pedro Campa, Mexican veteran. I saw a little bit of him. Nopal, what do you think about Teofimo in the 140-pound division? Do you still see him dominating the 140-pound division if you did initially when he was going to move up? What are your thoughts on him currently?
I do, man. I think he's going to do great. I mean, who else? who can get. I think he beats Josh Taylor, bro. To be honest, but Josh Taylor, I don't even think he's a 140 pounder anymore. I would consider him more like 147. But I think he beats everybody in the division. That's just me, you know. That's what I think. I think that other fight, he just, I guess it was just I think the set of circumstances. That's probably why he lost his last fight. You know, it was just a set of circumstances, and like I said earlier, I think that he suffers a little bit from mental health. You know, you can see that he gets on Twitter and he has to pump himself up and he acts like he's on top of the world, stuff like that. You know, he has a delusional mindset, to be honest, you know, and he can't accept where he messes up. He says that he still thinks he won that fight versus Cambosa. So in reality, to me, he has a delusional mindset, but that doesn't take away from what I see him do, you know, in the ring. I think he's a really good fighter. But, you know, that's what I could say on him.
So Teo Media here says that he's never heard me talk about Ryan's room for growth. Bro, when have you heard me take Ryan all that seriously?
And that's true. Hey, you can say whatever you want about Ryan Garcia too, right? Nobody comes to his,
let's talk about
his
growth real quick.
defense.
If you want to talk about growth, this is Vergil Ortiz's growth, if he can make it that far. This is Ryan Garcia's growth. If that makes sense to you. So, end of the story on Ryan Garcia's growth. I don't give a flying fuck about Ryan Garcia. Thank you.
Ryan Garcia has, I would say, poor footwork. I like his hand speed. I like his power with his lead left hook.
What about his baby mama's Chicano?
Well, that's his strength of his. You know what I mean?
That's an A plus.
A plus.
A plus.
Yeah, he's doing well for himself there. You know, he's got good taste. I'll say that his defense is no good. I agree with everybody. Yeah, he keeps his chin out there like crazy. I mean, like I said, I never really thought he was anything special. I do think that he might be able to beat Tank, but that's a stylistic thing. It's not like I think he's going to go and just take care of business. But we're going to talk about Ryan Garcia here in a little bit. But thanks for bringing that up. You know, I think that Sonteo thinks that all the pretty boys stick together. That's not always true. You know what I mean? So who else wants to cook on Teofimo Lopez? Drew, you know, he's like, what, your favorite fighter? Something like that?
Oh my God, he must be, I guess.
What do you think about him entering the 140-pound division? You know, well, you know, I know you think that the story's out on him and that he can be beat because, you know, you think that Lomachenko has displayed the blueprint on how to beat Teofimo Lopez and all somebody has to do is follow it and they can win. Is that right?
You know what? A couple of my boys hit me up. They're like this, yo, Drew, you got to watch some of these channels. Like, you're the only one that said there's a blueprint to beat Teofimo Lopez. And I see people talking about it and everything. Like, to tell you the truth, to everybody that talks about that on your channel, you're welcome for the content. You should appreciate, you should at least acknowledge me at least. But there is, like, if you saw the later, like the second half of that fight, you could see how Lomachenko was demonstrating how to beat Teofimo. Almost stopped him too in one round. And hurt him on numerous occasions in the second half of the fight. I still had Teofimo winning 7-5, but that was a blueprint how to beat Teofimo Lopez. Cambosis beat him and everything. Like, I said it before, I don't think Teofimo ever becomes world champion again unless he fights for a vacated belt against a nobody.
Drew. All I can say is, like, you have to acknowledge round 12 and what happened, bro. If the blueprint worked, right? Like, how is it that he lost that round? Like, you know, like, explain that to me, man. Like, that's the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, he had to win the round, Teofimo. He did. So, you know, it would have been a draw if he didn't win that round.
So Teofimo has the blueprint on Loma.
Man, I don't think so. Because tell you the truth, I'm going to tell you the truth right now. If Lomachenko would have done that from the first round, Teofimo would have been stopped. I'm telling you that right now because he almost got stopped in the later half of that fight. I don't think that fight would have went 7 rounds if Loma would have done that from the get-go. I'm sorry. I don't think that would have went 7 rounds. I think Loma would have stopped Teofimo in the 7th or 8th round.
He did take a little too long to get going, and I think there is an adjustment to be made. Right? George, what do you think about the blueprint?
The blueprint, I mean, okay, there's only one Lomachenko, so, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that can pull off a Lomachenko.
That's true, Drew. That's true, Drew. Who else?
I mean, yes, Cambosis. I'm sorry. No problem. But yeah, man. I mean, Cambosis. I mean, we don't know what was really the mindset of Teofimo. I think the only blueprint to Teofimo is his mental, is his mentality, is, you know, coming into the fight. So, I mean, shit. If there is another Lomachenko out there, I mean, I don't know offhand who's the closest. I mean, I definitely see Teofimo being a champion at 140, especially with Josh Taylor vacating 2 of those belts. It might be he might fight for a vacant, but I think he's a pretty solid 140 champion. And I've always believed that he was solid. I mean, you take away what Kambosos did, I mean, it's a loss officially, but I think it was a mental thing. I think that's what hurt him in that fight.
You know what? I'm sorry, no, Paul. I just gotta say this real fast. I don't think he beats Jose Cepeda. I don't think he beats Regis Prograis. I don't think he beats Jose Morales. He definitely doesn't beat Josh Taylor. Those guys beat Teofimo. It's like that's why I don't think he's gonna be a champion at 140. Like, if it was any consideration, he would have got into a vacated title fight with one of them and everything. Like, I just don't think he beats the top guys at 140. And
but okay, so I hear this a lot, Drew. People making statements like that, like he'll never do this, and then later on when he does it, the person's never there to be found. So, what I want to ask you is, if he does beat somebody, are you going to give him his credit?
Was I there when he beat Lomachenko and I gave him the fight? Yes.
Well, did you make a lot of excuses though, Drew, for not giving him credit on that win?
I gave him credit for it. I even had him score. I scored the fight 7-5.
Are you going to say? Am I going to hear you say I was wrong about him not being able to win a legitimate championship or belt?
Yeah, I'm going to say, because I did admit I'm wrong before.
Good man, bro. That's all I wanted to know.
Before. I even had, like, tell you the truth, I'm going to be honest with you right now. He beats one of those guys for that belt, I'll say I was wrong about it. But I don't think he beats none of them.
All right,
the best chance he has to beat somebody is Jose Morales. And to tell you the truth, he should have left his fucking dad after that Kambosos fight. He's damaging to his career.
That's true, man.
That's the main reason why. And I tell people this. You're telling Loma fans not to use the shoulder injury as an excuse against Teofimo. Don't use that fucking bullshit that he had, that he almost died. He could have died fighting that everything. You choose to fight that fight the way you want.
And he's still letting people hit him in the stomach. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you chose to fight. Fighters don't come into the ring 100% most of the time. So we're gonna hold Teo to the same standard as we hold Lomachenko and everything. If you're saying don't make excuses for Lomachenko, don't make excuses for Teofimo, man.
Let me ask you something, Drew. What grinds your gears so much about Teofimo? Is it the delusional stuff that his dad and him say, or is it just that one win versus Lomachenko?
It's the delusional stuff. You want to know what's wrong with Teofimo, man? He got too big and full of himself when he beat Lomachenko. He thought he was on top of the world and no one could touch him. And he got blown back to reality when George Kambosos knocked his ass down in the first round.
He wasn't the only one who thought he was hot shit after he beat Loma, dude. Like, he looked like the chosen
Damn.
one, bro.
There was some dick riding going on, Chicano.
A lot of dick riding.
Bro,
and I just put those dick riders back to reality.
Everybody had Teofimo beating Kambosos, and I'll say this, and you could check the archives, like, I don't care either way, but dude, you could tell he was wheezing before the fight. You could hear him. He didn't seem like himself, and we talked about that. But I mean, think about it. I mean, like, how good is Kambosos? I mean, Haney handled him pretty especially. I didn't think he was all that special before he beat Teofimo Lopez. Is he going to continue to make noise at 135? Like, I don't know. If they fought again, I would favor Teofimo Lopez at 140. Like, I don't think he can actually make 135 again. But I think that there's a better version of Teofimo available. Kambosos beat him on the night. He was the better man that night. I also worry about the head of Teofimo Lopez, right? He's got some mental issues, bro, and it's kind of evident. He seems a little paranoid to me, and it's starting to show itself a bit more. But I think, well, that wouldn't necessarily keep him from snagging another title at 140 pounds, especially if Taylor vacates and moves up. Like, okay, like, who would I favor Teofimo Lopez against right now? Like, I think he beats Ramirez. straight up. Zepeda, that's kind of an interesting one. I think that would kind of look like the Nakatani fight, maybe a little bit. I think Teofimo would need to improve a bit more. And, he can't be the big man anymore at 140 pounds. Like, he was used to just kind of being like the big guy, but he's not even really that tall anyway. So he's going to be fighting people that are taller and longer than him. So he's going to need to learn how to crash the pocket a little bit more. I think his power could carry up. I wouldn't be surprised if he's that awesome puncher that we know. I mean, he's still a tremendous power puncher. I mean, he still knocked down Kambosos, and Kambosos, before that had pretty good chin, still has a pretty good chin. Doesn't look like he gets knocked down too often. Like, I think he's got power that carries up. I think that he could use a change in trainers, but I mean, like he said, he's going to ride this until the wheels fall off. Like, it's really up to Teofimo how far he could take things. As far as physically, man, I think he's still the goods. Mentally, I have my doubts, and I think that could stop him from having an all-time great career, but he seems confident, and maybe he needs to whip himself up into this type of like self-confidence. Like, look at all like the modern really good fighters. Like, a lot of them think they've won fights where they've lost. Taylor, Canelo, they just have like this mentality that they won, and their confidence brought them up to a very high point, right? We're talking like undisputed fighters when we're talking about certain fighters like that, right? So, I mean, they have a mentality of self-belief, and you can't take that away. I mean, look at Wilder. He didn't even accept his losses. I mean, a lot of these guys have just this blind self-belief.
I just want to ask one question. How drunk was Teofimo's dad when he said that his son beat Kambosos not like 10-2, 9-3?
Hey, Drew, I seen him in Tucson when Valdez fight Conceição, and he was interacting with the crowd. Teofimo Sr., that dude could not get a word out, man. So I believe that dude was really drunk. So
he was drunk that night too.
Drunk
he
that
was
night.
drunk when he said Lomachenko lost 11-1 to his son.
And then okay, real quick, 140. They're both top-ranked fighters, right? Arnold Barbosa, I think, is probably. I mean, there's two belts that are vacated at 140. So I could see a possible fight between Teofimo and Arnold Barbosa. I mean, Arnold Barbosa could be ready, and I know they're both top ranked, so I could see that fight happening. So they actually do not like each other. They both actually, now thinking about it, I heard an interview with Arnold Barbosa. He was on the Felipe Esparza podcast, and he was talking about how like they used to spar together, how they were friends, and then one day Teofimo switched on them, and there was a beef created. So I mean, there it is in the making, 140 Teofimo and Arnold Barbosa either fighting for a vacated belt or a chance, or whoever. But I think that's a fight that could be made in the future. I would give that a guaranteed win. But Taylor, I could see him possibly beating Taylor. Ramirez, I think he beats Ramirez. Prograis, I think, is probably going to be his toughest fight if them two were ever to fight at 140.
What if Haney enters 140?
That'd be a great fight.
That'd be a great day. There it is too, right? Man,
that's right.
That would be a great fight.
Yeah, that would be a good fight, man.
But you know what he said? I read something on a website when they interviewed him. They asked about the Devin Haney fight, and he says that Devin Haney hasn't earned the right to fight me. I'm like, seriously?
They were both undisputed, so what the hell?
No, let's get that narrative out the window. Teofimo was never undisputed. Let's get that narrative bullshit out the window. Him with Kambosos, as other people nickname him, Cam Booty, were never fucking undisputed. Let's get that out the fucking window right now. That fake ass franchise belt don't count as a real fucking belt.
Oh man. No, Paul, you got anything to say to that, brother?
I did consider him undisputed. I didn't really give any value to the email belt at the time, so I did consider him because lineally he was undisputed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Loma was the man, so you know what I mean. I think that had Loma won, Drew probably would have considered Loma undisputed. So,
I never considered him undisputed when he had those belts. I never considered him undisputed.
No, I mean he never was, right? Because he needed that one IBF.
He never was undisputed.
But had he won that fight versus Teofimo, you would have probably leaned towards him being undisputed. I don't think it's that big of an issue for somebody to say that he was undisputed.
I consider him the leader or a champion. That's what I would have considered him, the leader or champion of the division.
The man of the division, right?
Yeah, he was the
Okay.
lineal champion. He's the owner of the Ring Magazine belt.
So you think Loma should have fought Haney and kept that WBC real
Well,
title?
the main reason why that fight wasn't made is because Bob Allen was not going to let Loma go to the zone and fight him. If Dane Haney wanted the fight,
And why wouldn't he fucking do that, Drew?
ESPN.
Loma had way more momentum. Why the fuck would Bob Arum let him go over there and fight fucking Haney over there? It
That's what I said.
Other way around.
That's what they were saying. They say Bob Allen told them, Haney has to come here and fight Loma. He's the bigger name. He has all the other belts and everything. This is Loma's should be the A side, but Horn at the time didn't think to bring him over, and Haney's people thought that they didn't want to sacrifice a $3 million check.
And you know what? The irony of a guy getting a fucking belt in the mail and having so much momentum with the fans for them to say he's the real champ WBC. He didn't beat nobody to get that belt.
But I've always said that about email champs.
And I don't want to, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's easy for people to just shit on what I'm saying right now because, yes, technically he is undisputed. He's the man of the division right now. But at the time, it wasn't like that, bro. I'm not with people getting vacated belts, vacated opportunities, shit like that. Now if they got some legitimate wins behind them and then they get Baccal probably got a couple vacant opportunities, but he had real wins in his resume. So, that gives him more relevance. But at the time, Haney hadn't beat anybody. So to just get a belt in the mail like that, now you're the champ. Come on, bro. That's the same shit with Charlo. He got a belt the same way.
Listen to this. Who the fuck are we dealing with? Who the fuck are we dealing with? The WBC, one of the most corrupted sanctioning bodies in boxing today. The ones that cater to other people, to most of the higher superstars in the sport. Ones that make the fucking worst decisions. That offer to fucking put Jake Paul in the rankings for being a fucking heavyweight that's not even ranking cruiserweight. If he beat Hasid Rahman, that fight would have happened. They're not. The thing about it is, Haney should have fought for the vacated belt instead of getting an email. Fucking Charlo should have fought for a vacated belt instead of gotten the belt. And instead of gotten the belt. You can't blame the people. You gotta blame the fucking section and body for that bullshit. It's unfortunate and everything.
Charlo was offered a fight. He declined it.
Yeah.
And the WBC to stay on everybody's favor said, here, we're going to give you that belt and we're going to elevate Canelo to franchise just because you don't want to fight. So now they got two champions and, that's you got to understand too. I think, it's easy to call them real corrupt, but they're swinging with the punches. And if they don't go sometimes with what huge promoters like PBC say, I mean, what stops the PBC from just saying, fuck it, we're going to make our own belts and we're not going to fuck with no sanctioning bodies at all? We got fucking 60%, or we got a monopoly on all the boxers anyways. What do we need the sanctioning bodies for? So these sanctioning bodies are in tough positions too, bro. I mean, they didn't create the system of corruption. They're just, they're rolling with the punches, and it's easy to just say, hey, they're full of corruption, but a lot of the times they have to make these moves just to keep things going, I don't agree with them ranking Jake Paul. Yes, I think that is a bunch of fuckery, but what can we do about it anyways?
You look at it like this. They got what they call a ranking system. You get the top two opponents, the top two fighters in each division. If that's a vacated division, you have them fight for the belt. And another thing is, when you go to talk about the WBC, you have a fucking section and body that have fucking Yordrum ranked as the mandatory for Canelo one year when fucking guys that were below him that knocked him out like Chris Eubanks and fucking Anthony Durrell beneath him that should have got the opportunity to fight Canelo instead of Yordrum.
All three of those guys were bums anyways, bro.
Hey, who cares? They probably would have gave him better fights than fucking Yordrum did. But at the end of the day, if you look at it like this, this is why you have fucking rankings. If you vacate a belt, and why the fuck was Charlo given a belt when he refused to fight the WBC middleweight champion at the time, Canelo? And you had guys on that ranking system. Oh, you can proceed. Oh, you could go, hey, let's put our belt up and let's work with the other section and bodies so we make double the money and have one of their champions come and be a unification belt. Whoever wins will win more than one belt and everything. But no, they didn't want to do that. They just wanted to give Charlo the belt. And like Haney.
And you know what? To be honest, too, Drew, let me interject right there. There's things that go deeper when it comes to that specific situation. Is that when a guy has a silver belt, which I don't know if you guys remember that belt with the WBC, he's entitled to like 40% of the earnings. Now with a fighter like, you know, Canelo, how the hell do you give anybody 40% of the purse? So they know that Canelo's going to vacate if they impose that fight.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just for them it was like everybody's caught in a hard place because they're like, hey, well, you know, we can't technically mandate that fight. They're telling Al Heyman probably we can't mandate that fight because you guys don't really deserve 40% of the purse, and we can't just do Canelo like that again, like we did him with Triple G, because he's going to vacate and he's going to say F you guys again. So they're like, well, what's like what can you say? Like, can we all come to an agreement? We're going to actually give you guys the belt, but at the same time, we're going to elevate Canelo. So technically, you guys are still champs, but now with the franchise belt, you guys are all in a equal grounding when it comes to negotiating, because realistically now they can make you guys a good offer and you guys can either accept it or deny it without the punishment of being being your title stripped for not taking the fight. You get what I'm saying?
Hold on, Drew. So, I'm so sorry. Ain't this some shit? Like, I told Nopal, hey, they're going to end the franchise belt. The WBC has said that they're removing the franchise belt. Do you want to cook on it? He's like, nah, I'm good. Now, like we mentioned franchise, and Nopal's going off. You know what I mean? And Drew's going off.
So there's some positive things.
Hey, do a final point, and then let's move on to the next.
There's some positive things, even though most of the stuff with the franchise, it may seem negative. It does sound stupid as fuck. Starting with the name, it just makes it sound stupid as hell. Franchise, come on, like you're not a real champion. You're just a champion of the franchise. Like that don't even sound right. Starting with the name, there's a lot of things that don't sound right. But when it's all said and done, if you go back to it, so far the only champions that have been franchise champs have all been lineal champs. So if you look at that, and then you look at the fact that when people negotiate fights, we're often in positions where people have to vacate belts because the other person's using the leverage that's established by the rules in the commission. This guy gets 40%, this guy gets 60%. So sometimes people have leverage that way, and other people are forced to vacate. So with the franchise thing, you make the guy a franchise champion. Now he's at liberty to really negotiate a fight according to what he's worth, because he can say, hey, we're offering you $10 million to fight us. And then the public gets in there and says, hey, he's giving you more than you're worth. But then the other guy's tied to a promotional company who's not allowed to let him fight outside of his promotion. So, but to the fans, they can still determine who's ducking and who's not, because if that dude really cares about his legacy, he'll tell his promotional company or whatever. He'll say, hey, I want to fight the dude. And then them guys are at liberty to say, hey, just give us a little bit extra. We'll have the fight on your network. We've seen fighters do that before, you know? So I think there's some positive things when it comes to the franchise. I'm going to say most of them were negative, but when all said and done, there was some positive things.
Like, I look at it like this. He was mandated to fight Charlo Canelo, right? And Charlo was the silver champion at the time. But here's the thing. If the negotiations didn't work out and it goes to a post bid, that takes that silver champion out the window of that 40%. That goes to a post bid. He ain't getting no more than 30% of that purse.
But the thing with the
and there was an offer made. We all know Canelo did make an offer to Jamal. Let's wrap this up, bro. Let's wrap it up. You know, franchise. You know, I'm dragging here in this. Okay, you know what I mean. Like we got to move on for time, man. But because you know what? But we can talk about this again because Nopal is a franchise expert. You know what I mean, and we all have some strong feelings about it. And I want to give a shout out to Nando Llamas who's in the chat. Nando, I hope you go back and listen, man. We tried to give an intervention to Drew. You know, you tried to bring up the blueprint that Loma had for Teofimo Lopez. You know, and we tried to talk him out of talking about the blueprint Also, he's not impressed with Virgil. And we all had some comments on that. Great stuff if y'all go back. But I want to talk about who's going to be at the fight. Oscar De La Hoya said he's planning to show up, right, to Teofimo's fight to see if he could possibly arrange a fight between Teofimo Lopez and Ryan Garcia. But Ryan Garcia has come out and said that he's only interested in fighting Tank Davis. George, what are your thoughts on all this news?
I guess I believe it when I see it, man. I mean, if this is what he wants, like, no more talking, like, let the shit happen, like, sign it already. Come on, like, give us that fight. And the Teofimo fight isn't bad either, but I mean, I think this is, when I say this, for the majority, this is what we want to see. No more talking. Like, let's get it signed and get it done. So sign the fight, please, both of you.
And Nopal, what do you think about this, brother? About these developments?
I don't know. I mean, the fight ain't really even possible, bro. It's like Mayweathers are gonna want Ryan Garcia to basically just fight on their network and fucking take 10% of the value of whatever they're worth, and it's just gonna be a fucked up ass situation for Ryan. So if I was him, I wouldn't even want this fight. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be asking for it. But maybe he's smarter than all of us, and he's just saying he wants to fight because he knows it's an impossible. So he's got that. Fighters got that protection. I call it the Charlo protection plan. You pretend like you want to fight a guy, and you can say whatever you want because you know that fight is never going to happen. So go ahead and do whatever. Use it to promote yourself, whatever. Maybe even though Ryan Garcia doesn't strike me as a dude that would do that. Maybe that's what he's doing, man. But for the meantime, I think this fight is very impossible to make. And if I was in Ryan's position, I would just, you know what I mean? I'd keep doing what I'm doing because he's, like I said last time, he's worth hella money. He's got hella potential. He's in a position to earn hella money. He's got hella fame. He's got hella followers. He's got everything where all he has to do is keep fighting and he's going to make hella money. He's drawing hella deals outside of boxing and stuff like that. His money earning potential is like through the ceiling. Why waste your time trying to get a fight that you can't get anyways? Just move along and make your career, man.
Drew, what do you think? Wait, actually, before you, I want to give a shout out to Dave, who says Ryan's only interested in fighting 5'6" guys on average. And I think George is questioning whether Tank's even 5'6" here. Whoever Ryan fights will be worse than Jojo Diaz because Jojo Diaz signed to fight Cepeda. I mean, that's a great point, Luis Trevino, LT Guatemala y Desmadre agrees with Nopal. And Nando here says that, oh, damn, shoe shine, always going hard on Ryan. I've noticed that a little bit. I've noticed that. Usually Dave's pretty neutral on everybody, but sometimes he has, people that he's critical of. I picked up on it.
Motherfucker, that's why.
Because he's real.
He's a smart motherfucker. That's why.
I fully have never been impressed with Ryan Garcia all that much. I think he has a certain skill set. I don't think he's a complete fighter by any means. What do you think, Drew? Do you want to add to what your co-host has to say about all this?
Yeah, I'm going to add to it right now. Ryan Garcia is only calling out Tank to stay relevant in boxing, so he can keep fighting nobody. He can keep fighting guys that no one gives a fuck about anymore. Like, seriously, it really is true. Like, Fortuna moved up from 135, and like for that, to fight him and everything.
That was a good fight, though, Drew.
For long as it lasted, yeah.
That was a great fight, bro.
But here's the thing. Let me just say something right now. When you go along and you try to say that, oh, we're fighting to see who's the face of boxing. Neither of you guys are close to being the face of boxing whatsoever. I don't know who the fuck lied to you two because, like, Ryan Garcia is not good for boxing. Because if he was, he will fight. He will call out the best fighters. Like, if he, like, tell you the truth, the only guys he called out is Tank. When he's at 135, he didn't really talk about much. Teofimo he never talked about. Lomachenko he never talked about. Like, he only wanted Tank. And what the fuck Tank? what the fuck Tank gonna do for your career? You lose to him, your fucking career's over because you got knocked out by a 5'4", 5'3" guy, and everything because you left your chin out because you got a milk hard weakness. Like, if you put him and like, wonder why he won't fight Teofimo, and I think Teofimo knocks Ryan Garcia out. To be honest with you,
Me too, probably.
I don't think he beats any of the top fighters at 140 neither, Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia opens himself to get countered a lot. When he throws that right hand, he has himself wide open right there for a nice good punch. Luke Campbell caught him there, and that's why he hasn't fought nobody that is as big as Luke Campbell, because he didn't want to get caught there again because he's so fucking undisciplined on defense. So, end of the day, this fight's not going to happen, and he's going to keep bringing his name up for a fight. So so he keeps his name out there, and he fights a southpaw fighter at 140. At the end of the day, my final thought on this: fuck Ryan Garcia.
Wait, Drew. What else grinds your gears so hard about Ryan, man?
He gets
Tell
the
us,
bitches,
bro.
man.
There's
That's
got to
what it
be
is.
something else you don't.
Ryan
like about
Garcia
him,
does
man.
not put as much bitches as me. Calm down with that.
I need to go to-
and the thing about it is, he lost money to Spence. I think he's a fucked up gambler too, by the way.
Hey, you know what I
Yeah.
heard, Drew? I heard that he pulls so much bitches that even Trojan condoms want to sponsor his ass. That's how many bitches he pulls, bro.
Yo, let's just say this right now. He needs more of them because his pullout game must not be that good.
Well, he can afford to hit it raw, like they say, and he don't mind paying child support.
Oh, shit.
Plus, he's connected to
Raw.
a woman for life. Like it's all right. I'm just saying. I'm saying, he wouldn't be the only person to do it. That's all. That's all. Dude, I know. Look at Nando. So much anger over a prospect. Yeah, dude, he elicits anger, dude. Like it's interesting to me. Like
Whoa, we calling Ryan Garcia a fucking prospect still?
I think he's like borderline prospect contender. Like, I mean, he's kind of like in that Tank Davis division, like not really fighting anybody at the top, going into different weight classes. Like I said, I don't really take him all that seriously in general. If he gets knocked out, I'll be happy. But if he surprises me, I'll be happy too.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be what Ryan Garcia is gonna be remembered as, right? 20 years from now, was it his good looks? Was it all the sponsorships, or was it his accomplishments in boxing? I mean, this is what we're doing, right? It's supposed to be boxing. So, and obviously the big talk is that's all he does is talking and doesn't get these fights done and uses Tank Davis's name. So again, if he wants the Tank Davis fight and somehow they can make it happen, like, come on, man, I'm already tired of the talk. Julian will tell you, like, I'm tired of the talk. Me and Julian go back and forth sometimes, back and forth talking shit to each other. But it is what it is, man. I think most of us are done with the talking, and just get the shit done. Get the shit fucking done.
Dang, fuck that puto Ryan Garcia. Chilo says, man, Ryan Garcia's got no love from anybody but the bitches. It seems like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But he's probably not
he's right.
complaining.
Fuck that puto.
As long as my bitches love me, huh?
That's right. He'll go up to him and be like, I'm sad. And they'll just kind of like, nestle him in their bosoms. You know what I mean? There we go.
Oh, man. The pair of bosoms, huh?
I'll tell you this right now. If I know a whole course in sentence in Spanish, I'll fucking say it right now.
Rosetta Stone.
That's right. That's right, man. And hey, dude, I want to talk to y'all next week, dude. Okay, but before we do, I want to talk about this. There's a retraction to be made. Last week, we did the Canelo Golovkin 1 rescore. It was unanimous across the board, not a robbery. But Kalik said that, he had trouble finding 3 consecutive rounds for Canelo. But on Twitter, he said he actually had it wrong. He had 4 swing rounds when he actually wrote down 6. That's a lot of swing rounds. Only 6 rounds I had a fighter clearly winning. So a whole lot of swing rounds. So, it just feels a little bit better. So, I just want to make that little retraction. Drew, I'm sorry you weren't here, man. You could have been the one person saying, yes, it was a robbery. But I know you scored it. Any final thoughts on Canelo versus Golovkin 1? We've already cleared it.
Well,
certified, not a robbery. And it feels good. But do you have anything to say about it?
I had an 8-4 Triple G. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. It was an 8-4 fight. Like, it was. I scored. I watched it and scored it again in case I came on here, and I still had it 8-4.
Okay. Did you have Canelo beating Trout?
Yeah, I had him beating Trout.
Did you have him beating Lara?
No,
Okay, and then the second Canelo versus Triple G fight?
I had him losing to Triple G too.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. At least you're, somewhat, I don't know. You know what? I respect your opinion, Drew. I know that. But I want to announce it, dude. Next week, we're doing it. Part 2 of our controversial rescore finale. We're doing it, and it's all downhill from here, baby. Canelo versus Triple G2. George, are you excited about this one, man?
Yeah, I'm excited about this one, man. I was excited even doing the first one. I'm excited. Let's see what happens. See where I score again. Watching these fights live before I came on to Chicano, it was more of like the eye test. I'm like, all right, I thought he did this good, he did that good. Now I get to sit down and assess the fight thoroughly. And Teddy Atlas, and I think a good majority of everybody else felt like the jab again was the big thing or the big reason why Triple G pulled this off in some eyes. But I remember watching it, and I felt like I leaned towards Canelo in a very close fight, just like the first one. You're on mute.
Sorry, thanks, man. I'm excited about this one. Nopo, what do you think about this one, man? What do you remember, and are you confident in your rescore that we'll have here coming up?
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. Actually, out of these 2 fights, I like the first one better for some reason. I don't know. I can't pinpoint it. It's like, for this fight, I'm like, to me, I thought Canelo stayed in the pocket too much, and that's what he made it about. So, for me, it was an easy win because he proved, they were saying that he was running the whole time on that other fight, on the first one, and he went in there on a mission to prove people wrong. Now, he put himself in danger the whole fight to take some heavy blows, and he did absolutely amazing, and he made Triple G look like a coward, basically. You know what I mean? You were saying that I was running away from you in the first fight. Now, guess who was running away from me? And so, it was more to prove a point. And yes, if you score it by the rules of boxing and all that, if it was an amateur match, yeah, maybe it would have been a close, decision still for Canelo. But no, this is pro boxing, and it's judged a little different. So yes, I'm very excited for this one.
It sure is, and yeah, Canelo was dared. Hey, why don't you fight us Mexican style? Triple G said it. Abel Sanchez said it. And Canelo went in there and dispensed an ass whooping, sent Triple G's ass to the hospital that night. So I'm looking forward to this one-sided beatdown for Canelo making Triple G do what he doesn't want to do, which is all of a sudden start fighting on the back foot. Some people might call that ring generalship. There's a whole lot of ring generalship going on in general in this fight. There's a lot of effective aggression and a lot of clean punching. Man, I am looking forward to this fight. This one is a little less suspenseful to me. Like when I watch that first fight and I score it, man, it's always kind of like, oh shit, there's a lot of swing rounds and there's those tide changes, right? But that was considered a draw, right? But this fight, I feel like the hardcore boxing community is kind of taking back this fight. Like initially it was another robbery, but the hardcores, I mean, now it's more like 50-50, or a lot of people even think that Canelo beat Triple G's ass and we don't even need a third fight. You know what I mean? So this fight, which is rare because historically when it's cemented that it was a robbery, usually it stays that way. But with this second fight, I feel like Canelo's taking it back a bit. You know what I mean? Drew, what do you think, man, about this second fight? You got anything to say about what I've been saying?
Well, I thought he won the second fight too, 8-4. So, I don't even want to see a third fight. I don't even think there was a fucking reason for a third fight because, tell you the truth, they waited so long for the third fight. And two, come on. I thought they robbed the guy twice already. Why the fuck I'm going to want to see a third fight for? And he's too fucking old now.
Drew, is there any chance that you're secretly just protecting Triple G's virtue in this fight?
I don't protect Triple G's virtue in this fight because he tell you the fucking truth, people are fucking hyping him up that he has the most fucking defenses in middleweight history, but he doesn't have the most consecutive defenses in middleweight history, and he's not even in the top 5 of best middleweights of all time, in my view.
He was really good, though, bro. To be honest, he was awesome, but I don't.
Is he better than Thomas Hitman Hearns? No. Is he better than Sugar Ray Robert Leonard? No.
Hopkins.
Is he better than Bernard Hopkins? No. Is he better than Marvin Hagler? No.
Damn.
Is he better than Roy
No.
Jones? Is he better than Roy Jones?
Is he better-
No.
Is he better than Canelo? No.
Exactly.
Oh,
Well,
dude.
I hope you join us, or at least give us a scorecard. I hope you watch this one and enjoy it. This is a fun fight. Like, when somebody says, "Hey, did you see the fight last night?" You got to keep in mind we're there to see a fight, and this was a fight. Man, I'm looking forward to it, man. I haven't seen this fight in a couple years, and so it'll be a little suspenseful for me. Only in the sense that Triple G is a worthy adversary, and he brings it too. He gets backed up because he's forced to be backed up. But I mean, it is what it is, and El Chido says that this is the style Canelo needed against Bivol. He wouldn't have gotten more respect on a loss with this style. I totally agree. And I said that in the post-fight review. Like I said, yeah, he needed to bring it a bit more. I was surprised that he didn't. Great point, and I completely agree. Nando here says that Abel knows they lost that first fight. That's why he was begging for toe-to-toe in the rematch. And he follows that up with saying that boxing media is a bunch of cap and save-ems when it comes to El Consentido G. Yeah, he's the darling of the media press row. You know what I mean? Didn't you say that, Nopal? Somebody said that. Somebody said
Yeah,
that
man. Have you ever noticed they never ask him the reality of the situation? They just go along with the whole image. Like, yeah, you're such a good boy, like, hey, yeah, you're such a victim, bro. Like, can't believe that happened to you, It always goes with his whole image, and I think that the press, the media and the press, they understand that that's a meal ticket for them to sell videos. And this is the whole reason why they go along with the Jake Paul thing, because this is how they make their money, bro. Imagine them trying to expose somebody like Jake Paul for the sham that it is. Like, do you expect Marcos from whatever, what is that, Marcos Villegas from, do you really expect him to say no to another meal ticket? So they're going to be like, oh, this guy ain't shit. And then start asking him questions like that are really tough. You know what I mean? Like the reality of the situation. Like, hey, bro, when are you going to fight a real boxer? They don't ask shit like that because they're meal tickets. Of course they're going to play along with it like if it's a movie script, bro. Of course they're going to do that because that's how they generate their money, by doing those type of videos. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, next week, man, we'll set up a date, and we'll make it happen. Looking forward to that. And up next, we have our Fight of the Year segment. Drew, did you have a chance to watch this fight?
Which one?
Schmeling versus Baer?
No.
That's all right. Well, you're welcome to stick around, or did you want us to sign you off, man?
I guess I'll stick around.
Hey, yeah, stick around and learn something, Drew, man. We're going back to 1933. Fight of the Year, Max Schmeling versus Max Baer. Now, we've already seen Schmeling, and he's defending this time against Max Baer from Omaha, Nebraska. All right. Now, Max Baer is known for having a lethal right hand. Literally killed a man in the ring. He knocked him out. He was sent to the hospital, and he died that same day. His brain, the opponent's brain, was dislodged from its connective tissues. Okay. And this gentleman's name was Frankie Campbell. Pretty sad. But I want to say that Baer went on to support his family, Campbell's family, and then also put Campbell's kids through college, and he felt guilty about it. On top of that, there is this common knowledge that he also almost did the same to a guy named Ernie Schaaf. Now, he really wobbled Ernie Schaaf and just like hit him with the hardest punch that a lot of boxing writers had ever seen, right? And then since then, Schaaf said he was never the same, and he said that he had, his cognitive issues were in decline. He started declining very rapidly in the ring, and then 6 months later, a gentleman named Primo Carnera fought him. He got knocked out, and then he died. But a lot of people are attributing that knockout or that death to what Max Baer did to him, right? So pretty interesting, but he was a devastating puncher. Also half Jewish. He represented the Star of David on his trunks, and he was fighting Schmeling, who was a German. Now, this fight has a little bit of tension, right? Because back in the day, Adolf Hitler had just come into power in Germany, and he was elected in as the chancellor. Okay. He hadn't fully taken over as far as like putting the Nazi flag and becoming a dictator. But this was an interesting fight because Schmeling was Hitler's favorite fighter. And so there were some high stakes here. And this fight went to the 10th round where Max Baer knocked out Schmeling, and this was in front of a crowd of 60,000 people in New York City. So, Nopal, what'd you think about this fight, man?
To be honest, I really liked this fight, man. It was equal action. These guys were right on each other. I hardly saw any clinches. That's one thing I like about these fights. And, I thought they were both pretty good. Baer, he started off pretty hard in the first round, and then it kind of equalized later on. And, the footage I was seeing, it didn't show every round. It just showed like round 1, and then it went to like round 4 or something like that.
Me too. That's what I saw.
So it went to like round 6. So it was kind of hard. But at the 10th round, Baer just put it on Schmeling and knocked him down. And then he got up and he did it again. And the ref, he stopped the fight. And I think that's due to what you said. He already had the reputation. He had killed the guy in the ring. And then that other guy that he gave him one of them lethal last punches, which later on, his career ended, like you said. I think the referee was smart enough to know that, hey, there's no reason for Schmeling to die here. You know what I mean? Let me intervene. And I think that was the best thing because, Schmeling also, he had a reputation of it was up and down with his popularity because he was associated with the Nazis. And this wasn't due to his, ideology or anything like that. It was just due to his nationality. He was born in Germany. And of course, he lived over there as a kid and stuff. But, to become a boxer, like to make money and stuff, he came to the U.S. And, Max Schmeling wasn't into that Nazi shit. But of course, when he went back to go visit his family, of course, Hitler was trying to latch on to that popularity of him and kind of like turn him over. But he was never able to fully able to make him, to switch his ideology because Max Schmeling always had, he always had Jewish people helping him, his manager, shit like that, and so he was never able to switch him over. And so, like the U.S. at one point when he fought Joe Louis, I think, they really used that propaganda to make him look really bad. But, I don't even know how I got into all this stuff. But, it's amazing when you watch a fight like this because there's so much history surrounding both guys, and it was a great thing to go back, and I really appreciate these fight of the years.
Thank you, Nopal. That was great, man. And you're right, dude. Great context. And we've been lucky that a lot of these fights of the years have been heavyweights, and we've been able to kind of follow a storyline of what's going on with the heavyweight division. I'll give you got a round of applause. So, Nopal, what kind of letter grade do you give this fight as far as entertainment purposes? I mean, and I know you're happy that this fight actually had sound. You must have been happy about that one.
Yeah, due to the fact that it ain't all the footage and all that, I'd probably, for the time being, I'd give it an A. But in entertainment value, I would probably give it like a C. But it's just for me, what did it was the history surrounding all the situations with this fight. All the context and all that, like you said. So I would give it an A+ when you look at the whole big picture. I'm so glad that we were able to watch this one.
Me too, man. It's fascinating learning about this stuff. George, what did you think of this fight, man?
Right off, I will give this a score. I'll score it. I'll give it like a B+, A-. It was a good fight. You saw both guys doing good work, but of course, Baer, being the harder puncher. There was a couple of things that pointed out to me, and I was obviously when this was happening. Anytime I'm watching one of these videos, I like to go read into the comments during the fight or in between rounds. And I thought I was the only one that noticed, but there was some little dirty tactics that Max Baer was doing. I saw him do like a backhand. And I would see when they would kind of come in together and clinch, like he would kind of grab and pull him in and hit him.
He would push off too, huh?
Yeah, he would push off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was like, okay, you know what? Dirty boxing. What guys really don't do these little things when the ref is on the other side of them. I mean, you just seen Jake Paul come out, said what he said about Mayweather. Paul, what he said about Mayweather covering his mouth, but we already knew that because that's what he did. That's what he did to Maidana. But boxing has kind of always been always been the same. There's been rules that kind of been critiqued. Instead of the 15 rounds, they go to 12 rounds, the 10 count, and many other rules. But I enjoy watching this, man. It was cool. I love history. In school, history was one of my favorite subjects, and even now, like I even go back and I'll read some older books. I want to get into this one though, the one that you were talking, right? I think it was a Max Schmeling book, Chicano.
Well, right now I'm currently on a Jack Dempsey book.
Jack Dempsey,
But,
okay.
For reference, Jack Dempsey did work with Max Baer before this fight and was starting to polish up some of his skills.
Mhm.
Taught him how to be more elusive and how to shorten up his punches.
Yeah, and if that was evident there, you seen that's exactly what Baer was doing. Right hand was there. You see it, and it was good to see that the ref actually went in there, because when Schmeling got up and he looked completely out of it. Again, I give this a B+, A-. I love the history of boxing and what it all stands for. This is good stuff. I look forward to the next ones, man. And then like some of the history you guys, brought on here with you too, Nopal, saying, talking about the whole Nazi thing and that he didn't stand for it, but it was kind of like he didn't have a choice. So that's pretty cool. There's always stories, no matter who's in the ring or no matter who's boxing, and I think that's what interests me the most when it comes to these hit boxing events in history. Good fight, man. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Great stuff, man. And yes, there's a lot of great history. I didn't get into all of that, but we're going to get more into it because this is the last that we've seen of Max Schmeling as far as fights of the years go. So we're going to see him again. And the next time, the Führer is in the house as a dictator with the Nazi flag. And Schmeling has to fight under that flag because he's a German, right? So that'll be very interesting for us to go and take a look at. But up next, we're going to see Max Baer again. We're going to 1935, where he fights Joe Louis. So that'll be the next one. So if y'all want to kind of just watch these fights with us, they're fun. You learn, and also you look at styles, and also as a reference for the fight that we just reviewed, I would give it, as far as entertainment purposes, I'm with Nopal. Up until the ending, I'd probably give it like a C. It was a decent fight, but I mean, it's not one of those like fights of the year because it was so entertaining. That's just my take on it. Before we wrap up, man, fantasy fight, Gene Tunney versus Max Baer. George, what do you think off the top of your head, man?
Oh shit, I'm gonna go with Baer, man. I'm gonna go with Baer for some. I love Baer. I mean, the dirty boxing could be nasty, but I just think he just like your overall, grit, right hand. He was solid. He could take shots. I think I would favor Max Baer.
Nopal, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, I would favor Max Baer. I don't know if I saw on the screen. This was a heavyweight fight, right?
It is a heavyweight fight, but it's funny because it was said light heavyweight, but like when I read articles, they classified it as a heavyweight. Maybe they were just like I don't know what the weights were back then. Maybe like because they did look kind of small for like heavyweights. They didn't look all.
You know what?
Big.
I heard that so Schmeling weighed in at 187. I don't know if I thought that I was under the impression that they did same day weigh-ins back then, but it said that he was 187, and then Max Baer was 202 pounds or something. So that would if it was really at light heavyweight, then that would clearly mean that they had it wasn't the same day weight. I don't know. I'm confused, but it did say light heavyweight on the thing. And, when I looked at a little bit of the history, I think both these fighters did have their start at like light heavyweight, and then they moved up to heavyweight, but I'm not sure about that. That's just interesting,
Oh yeah. Well, Nopal, I'm loving the context that you have for all this stuff. And all of a sudden Nopal's dropping the facts, you know what I mean? You get a little bit of better audio and visual, and Nopal's here, to watch these fights, man.
Know what would give these fights a probably, or a B, is if they were in color, man, and be, better camera angles and all that.
Dude, we got to get to like the late 60s until you start seeing some color, my man.
Yeah, some Alexis Orguayo, some of that good stuff.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Drew Evo, man, thank you for sticking with us about this, during this whole thing, man. Any thoughts on the old school fights? You go back and watch them, bro. Like, I don't know if we've encountered any Irish dudes. Was Dempsey Irish? I think he was Irish, part Irish. Any thoughts?
first of all, no Paul came on camera for like 3 minutes and everything, then jump off and everything. I had to talk with him about that. I told him he needs to man the fuck up for once.
Yeah, you know what? I gotta admit, Drew's encouraging me, and I want to tell our audience that once I get a better set up, a background and all that, I'll be coming on camera, man.
Yeah, like he talks a lot of shit to me, and he keeps going back to that shit. First of all, but like I don't, when you look at the history of boxing, like how matchups were made to promote different events going on in the world, to have the be able to boost up the sales of each fight and tickets at that time. Like there was storylines back then in boxing, if you look at it. Now there's somewhat storylines, but it's more of, what's that word I'm thinking about? Pathetic.
Yeah. It's all for camera now.
And like this sport of boxing is favored more to casuals than it is to hardcore fans, unfortunately. And the boxers think that I only got to get the casuals into it, and not the hardcore guys into it. That's why I always say boxing is a sport that's on life support, and has been on life support for some time now. And they will continue to be on life support unless these guys start fighting each other and making sense of it. So
I totally agree, man. In perspective, some people they get mad when you talk about like all the sports dying, and it's like, when I say dying, I don't mean it's actually going to die. Like boxing will always be around, but no, comparatively, when you especially when you go back and you learn about what Dempsey was doing, or even just these fights, or the types of numbers that Muhammad Ali was doing, and even like in the downturns, like I mean, it's never been this bad. Like I think that boxing it's definitely lost its prominence, and we just kind of ignored it, and then all of a sudden, now it's a niche sport. But no, like it got there, and everybody was just trying to like excuse that it got there, and then all of a sudden we just started calling it a niche sport. Like it's sad that it had to happen like this. You know what I mean?
But you want to know who's you could blame for this? The people that came before these guys today, coming up, and then they come up as promoters, but they're fucking blending into it. They're not saying, hey, well, I fought that back in that day. I didn't duck nobody. I fought the best. And you got to rub it onto your guys that you're promoting. That, hey,
so if you got to blame one guy, who do you blame? Mayweather, right?
I blame Mayweather.
Don't say Oscar, bro. Do not say Oscar.
I'm not telling you the truth right now.
He fought everybody.
He fought everybody. But here's the thing.
He's doing what he can. With the limited power that he has, he's doing what he can.
But here's the thing. Mayweather is something like that, but if you look at it like this, Oscar is a guy that didn't duck nobody. But he has to put that same mentality into his top fighters. Like Ryan, say, yo, call this dude the fuck out. Like, say you want to fight Teofimo, let's make the fight. Or they're
saying that they're negotiating that, bro. Or they're talking about it. So hey, if that fight happens, bro.
Oscar's like this. Man. Hey, Oscar knows he's not gonna be able to make a Tank Davis fight. He knows, like, Ryan, call out somebody else that's a harder opponent than Tank and everything, man. Like, seriously, you know what? Like, if you beat one of these top other guys, you're gonna get more fucking respect and everything. Yeah. But I'm gonna sign off, guys. I gotta take care of some shit. Everybody have a good fucking day.
Thank you. And I know that your stalkers are, they appreciate you for giving them material too. You know what I mean? So salute, Drew Evo. The shoe shine is popular. Thanks again, man, for joining us.
See you, Drew.
Peace. Bye. All right, George, no ball. Any final thoughts before we sign off, brother? All right, man. Well, this is the Al Chile crew, and we are out. Everybody, have a great day.